And I think that's important, because what you learn from that is that you can trust your body. See, your body makes the decision rather than your head. You go down inside, and that's what you learn with all these steps in the focusing process. You learn how to trust your body and to go with it for good reasons. Let me just give you a quick example. A friend of mine who's written a number of books and is a therapist in California, he told me this example once a number of years ago when he used to help us with workshops there. He said he had a client that came to him, and she was a woman about 55. And she started to come to him for therapy. And when she came in that morning and started her focusing, this is the primary tool he uses, what felt like it was number one was that out of her kitchen window she could see that her neighbor's rabbit in the yard next door, in that rabbit hutch, was not being properly fed or watered. That felt like it was number one. Now, in the context of this, you have to understand how kind of stupid that seems. This lady had had to drive for an hour through rush hour and city traffic. Therapy is $75 to $100 an hour in the San Francisco Bay Area. Well, my head at least would say, look, if I have to put up with all this traffic to get to this therapist, pay him $75 or $100, I certainly should focus on something more important than the damn rabbit next door. You know, that's the way my head would work. No, so let's get with it and find a real problem here and work with it. But both she as well as John knew that that's this thinking up here. So what did she do? Well, she stayed with that feeling of looking out her kitchen and feeling uncomfortable about the rabbit not being properly cared for there in the box. And what happened, John said, was so illustrative of what we're talking about now with the focusing process, being able to trust the body. After a few minutes of just sitting, holding that inside, that feeling of the rabbit not being properly cared for, what came were the words, "That's the way I feel about myself. Nobody really cares whether I'm dead or alive." And that was the real issue of the whole therapy in the first place, was that she thought nobody really gave a damn whether she was dead or alive. And with that, of course, came the tears, the loneliness, everything that came with that. So, it's just amazing how these things aren't accidental. The burned toast things, the noticing some so-called silly thing is not silly, obviously, and where it can go and where it can lead you. So John said within 45 minutes she had moved just miles inside in owning how she really felt. She told him afterwards, she said, I've never been able to say this because I wasn't really clear. So it was a felt sense, I wasn't really clear to explain to you why I was even here for therapy. She says, now I know why I decided to come here. She said, now it even makes sense. I can see what's happened in the past. She said, I moved to a San Francisco area from out here in the East Coast, where I only have one living relative that's an old uncle. She said, I have no family. And she said, when I was about 45 years of age, I began to realize, well, maybe there will not be any family. And there will not be anybody that is a significant other person in my life. And she said, when I started to realize that, she said, it so frightened me that I threw myself into church work and volunteering for everything and doing things for everybody. I was everybody's servant. And she said, in order not to feel that feeling of maybe I am really alone and nobody gives a damn whether I'm dead or alive. And she said, as I began living with that, she said, I began to have health problems. She said, I was frequently cried. I was right up to here with tears, and people could just say, practically nothing to me, and I would dissolve into tears. And she said my concentration at work suffered, and I was having problems at work, and on and on. She listed all these things that were happening, and she said, that was why I came to you for therapy. It was because I was having all these other problems. But she said, I know not, but what's behind that? That I never owned how I really felt about myself and my life. And you'd think, well, now she walks out the door 10,000 times worse. But just the opposite. Just the opposite. And John said it was so wonderful to see, with 3 or 4 more sessions, how she found an inner strength in herself, and she began now to reach out and do things from inside that felt right and felt life-giving, and she created a world for herself in relationships that brought that into her life, what was missing. And he said he told me not too long ago he'd followed through on her, and he said, I would call her one of the happiest women I've ever run into.